Well, like, be more specific. You have the education. You went to school. You're an MD. You were in school for at least 20 years. You should be able to know a few studies or know like some more specific things. Don't just say like, oh, elective surgeries are being denied, but abortion should be like, what elective surgeries are being denied? Like, has there been an analysis by any institution done recently that shows that like mortality is increasing as a result of some elective procedures being denied? There might be. I'm not saying there's not, but if there is, just say it. Let us know. Like, you should know this, right? Like,
So you are a doctor?
Board certified family practice. I've been doing this for about 30 years in private practice here in Southern California.
As a doctor, what's some of the more frustrating things you're seeing when it comes to how coronavirus is being represented in the media and kind of how the public's perceiving it?
Well, I think most importantly is that the perspective that I have, that I put out there, that many of your viewers have seen, is not being put out there. So anytime there's a narrative that isn't right in line with the mainstream narrative, it's either not shown, it's banned or blocked or viciously attacked. And that's really the problem I have. It's not so much that my perspective is right, although I think it is. It's that I'm attacked for having a different position. And I don't mean my ideas are attacked. I mean me personally am attacked. That I should lose my license. That a few people have said on social media, they hope I get the virus and die so my voice is no longer heard. That I'm being irresponsible. That somebody should call the medical board, my local hospital, and so forth. So it's not about saying my perspective is incorrect and attacking my viewpoint, but it's attacking me personally and then bringing in my family as well to that, which I think is just ridiculous.
What were some of the opinions you had that differed from the mainstream narrative?
The lockdown that we're in the midst of, we're in Orange County now, and our governor here in California has basically shut down the state. The original narrative was we need to flatten the curve. And that made some sense when we had healthcare systems that were being overwhelmed in New York, in New Jersey, for a time in Seattle. So it made a lot of sense. If our healthcare systems were being overwhelmed, we want to keep people at home so we're not getting more cases because there's no more room at the end, if you will.
Oh my God, wait a second. Is that a don't tread on me libertarian yellow snake pin? Is that what that is?
But now across the country, including here in Orange County in California, our healthcare systems have plenty of capacity. And the policies that are in place right now are injuring people. They're killing people. So for example, we got a report up from Ontario, Canada, that 30 people while awaiting cardiac surgery died. They were waiting because their surgery was deemed non-essential. I have patients that need surgery, joint replacement surgery, for example, things that are causing them a lot of disability and pain, yet they're being told that they're not essential, so they need to continue to take their narcotics. They need to continue to have their joints be even more worn out and be in a lot of pain. And so the policies that we have in place right now are really harming people. Suicide rate is the highest we've seen it since the Great Depression. We have over 30 million Americans that have purposely been put on unemployment because of the
oh fuck, I feel like we researched this. Wasn't there actually not a lot of suicide in the Great Depression, or was there actually way more than normal? I thought we went back and we actually researched this, and surprisingly, it didn't look like that suicide rates climbed at all during the Great Depression. Does anybody remember we did this on stream? We went back and we looked at it. Yeah, I think there was like way less. It was something that you wouldn't have expected, that it was like actually less than normal. Anytime somebody starts spewing off like facts or whatever that are not wrong, it makes me question everything else. Were there more suicides during Great Depression? Let's check real quick. Oh, wait, hold on. We're getting papers linked that we've already read before. Okay. I could be wrong. I don't remember. Recent events highlight the importance of examining the impact of economic downturns on population health. The Great Depression of the 1930s was the most important economic downturn in the U.S. of the 20th century. We used historical life expectancy and mortality data to examine associations of economic growth and population health the period of 1920 to 1940. We conducted descriptive... The only exception was suicide mortality, which increased during the Great Depression, but accounted for less than 2%. Okay, no, so suicide did increase during the Great Depression, but other forms of death didn't increase. Population health. Okay, that was a surprising result. Correlation regression analysis confirmed a significant negative effect of economic expansion. Correlation and regression analysis confirmed a significant negative effect of economic expansions on health gains. The evolution.
I love you, buddy. Keep up the good work. Pep-oak.
Confirms the counterintuitive hypothesis that, as in other historical periods in market economies, population health tends to evolve better during recessions than in expansions. Yeah, that was the weird thing. Okay, so suicide does rise, but other like mortality or health things seem to fall for whatever reason.
Economic shutdown. Drug abuse is high. Spousal abuse, child abuse, domestic violence, mental health problems. Our own local sheriff, Don Barnes, has reported that our 911 system is being overwhelmed by domestic violence calls. So the policies initially were tolerable and they made sense logically. Quiet the cases down, our healthcare systems are being overwhelmed. But now we're creating government dependency like we've never seen before because of the unemployment. And that's the message that's not getting out. The message that is...
Oh, he was actually so good up until he hit his stupid fucking libertarian talking point. I think that there are very legitimate conversations to be had about, like, is it doing more harm than good to be closed? Can we open sub businesses and enforce some sort of social distancing, kind of like they're doing in Sweden, and not have everything locked down? I think there are good arguments to be had there for sure. These are conversations that should be had. But then when he hit the libertarian talking about like, oh, the government dependency is gonna make it so blah blah blah. Okay.
because of the unemployment, and that's the message that's not getting out. The message that is getting out is the mainstream narrative. The government is here to keep you safe. We know best from a government standpoint. Individual liberty, individual risk assessment be damned, that we know what's right for you, and you stay inside. Can't use the beaches, public parks are closed.
Yeah, fuck. Oh, yeah, so he just goes into spewing libertarian talking points.
Some of these things are quite arbitrary and capricious. So for example, here in California, we're told felons need to be let out of jail because they're being exposed to COVID virus. But at the same time, individual citizens are not allowed to exercise their Second Amendment right by going to a gun store to purchase a firearm because gun stores are closed down. Essential businesses are marijuana dispensaries. Essential businesses are liquor stores. Non-essential, if you want to go to church on a Sunday, you're not allowed to do that, even with social distancing. So we've got our priorities backwards, and some of these restrictions seem quite arbitrary. They don't make sense, and I think they're an overstep of our constitutional rights. I don't want to give motives to the politicians that are working hard, and I think they legitimately are trying to do what they think is in their best interest. But when some of these decisions are made and they appear quite arbitrary, you almost wonder if there's some political game that is being looked at to be had, especially during an election year. I've heard a lot of politicians and media pundits say that this may be, President Trump's Katrina, if you will. That it almost feels like they're rooting for this virus to cause President Trump not to be reelected. And there's this political divide that is just completely unnecessary.
Wait, but if that was true, wouldn't the impetus be on Trump to like do good things? Like, why would Trump be? Or is he implying that Trump is doing these things to make people more reliant on the government to vote for Trump? Isn't that normally the attack piece against Democrats?
Here is not politics, and it shouldn't be about politics. It should be about what is in the best interest of the country, what is in the best interest of individuals, and balance that with our constitutional rights. And unfortunately, I just don't think that's being done.
Gavin Newsom just signed an executive order that makes California a vote-by-mail state, giving all the citizens mail-in ballots. Do you think voting booths are unsafe during this coronavirus pandemic?
So we're good waiting in line to go to Costco or go to Walmart, but we're not okay waiting in line to go cast a ballot. Our fundamental constitutional rights of voting. So it's too dangerous for us to do that, but it's not too dangerous for us to go to a marijuana dispensary, a liquor store, or Costco.
Dustin, he's not wrong. The average worker is getting 106% of their wage for not working. 70% of the workers that are unemployed due to COVID are getting more by being unemployed than they're working. Even if that's true, Rage Pope, which I'm not sure if that's true, but even if that was true, I think we've looked at a lot of stuff in the past. The idea that like welfare discourages people from working, or that people will like always opt to live off of like unemployment or welfare, I don't think that's ever been borne out like in studies before. I don't think that's true. And even if that was true, then you can just scale back unemployment or those benefits a little bit. Like it's easy enough to do.
I'm not saying that Governor Newsom has purposely done this from the standpoint of trying to alter an election. I don't want to believe that. Boy, I just don't want to believe that. I just think he's making decisions in a vacuum without a clear perspective and differences of opinion for him to make that decision. But it just doesn't seem right. When we can't wait in line to vote, but we can wait in line to go to a marijuana dispensary or a Costco or a liquor store or you name it. When elective surgeries are deemed inaccessible, but elective abortions are considered to be okay, that doesn't make sense to me. There's no consistency. And
oh, God. So,
or you name it. When elective surgeries are deemed inaccessible, but elective abortions are considered to be okay, that doesn't make sense to me.
On an abortion, you're on like you kind of have a timetable for that, right? Like you can't put that off indefinitely. I'm curious if there are elective surgeries that are like life-threatening that are being put off as a result of COVID-19 stuff. I'd be interested in seeing. I really wish. I'm sorry. I've given this example like 50. I've given this example 50 million times, okay? And I'm going to continue to give it because I love it so much, okay? I had one textbook in my whole high school life, and it was by Philip Zimbardo. It was my AP Psych textbook, where I think in the preface to the book, he said something along the lines of like, hey, when you get into the real world, you shouldn't take anybody's word for anything. Anytime in this textbook we talk about a study or something, we cite it at the bottom of the page so you can go and look it up yourself. Like every claim that's made in this book is going to be cited. There was like an annotated fucking bibliography or whatever for like every research claim, every study or whatever that he talks about in the book. And I super fucking appreciated that. I thought it was so cool. It was so nice. I really wish when you had like these medical professionals that were giving these like declarations about like types of elective blah blah blah, well, like be more specific. You have the education. You went to school. You're an MD. You were in school for at least fucking 20 years. You should be able to know a few studies or know like some more specific things. Don't just say like, oh, elective surgeries are being denied, but abortion. Be like, what elective surgeries are being denied? Like, has there been an analysis by any institution done recently that shows that like mortality is increasing as a result of some elective procedures being denied? There might be. I'm not saying there's not, but if there is, just say it. Let us know. Like, you should know this, right? Like, Destiny, most psych studies fail to replicate. Ooh, careful. If you're ever a liberal arts major, there is one super fucking big meme, okay? If you ever get a STEM fuck that comes up to you and he's like, Did you hear that most of the soft sciences have a massive replication problem? All you need to do is pull out your Uno reverse card and say, guess what? It's true of the hard sciences as well, motherfucker. Nobody can replicate their shit because there's no fucking money in it, and hard sciences have just as much a problem as soft sciences with it, so suck my fucking dick, okay? It is absolutely true. The replication crisis in science, people misframe it all the time as it being like proof that liberal arts is trash. The reality is that paying people to do replications of experiments just isn't profitable. There's tons of experiments in physics, chemistry, biology that also have problems being replicated, but there's just not money. It's not sexy to validate somebody else's fucking, results. There was a big, somebody can find, not nearly the same. I mean, it was still a pretty big problem. Let's see if we can find it. Replication crisis. Was it published in Nature? How much published work in your field is reproducible? Like, there are decent chunks of not reproducible work in physics and engineering, okay? It's not like all of these sciences are like, oh, physics, I'd say 98.57%. Oh, chemistry, I would say like 92. Like, there is like good chunks of this shit. This is kind of a weird graph to read over. There are good chunks of this work that are very hard to replicate. The reality isn't that like, oh, well, soft sciences are garbage, blah, 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 STEM spirit. The reality is just that, like, there's not a lot of money in funding grants to replicate other people's experiments. It's not very sexy. Nobody wants to, like, nobody's going to publish it because it's boring. Like, nobody, like, yeah, like. The replication crisis is a problem in how we fund scientific research. It's not an attack against, like, soft sciences or whatever. Destiny's clueless here, LOL. Found the ass-mad STEM major that thinks that they're working with rigorous science that can never be wrong.
Bombo clap.
The key idiot into the driver's side door.
So you're saying they might be able to be reproduced if funded? What I'm saying is that if somebody's research gets published, but it might not be correct, it's not like, there's not a lot of money in like, oh, I'm going to run this person's experiment again. I'm going to publish my results on like my critique of their experiments. There's just not very much, very much in that. Like, people would rather fund new research, or rather fund new discoveries, or rather fund new drugs or engineering applications, or pushing cutting edge parts in the field or whatever. Oh, we were watching this. Do we want to watch this?
When we can't wait in line to vote, but we can wait in line to go to a marijuana dispensary or Costco or a liquor store or you name it. When elective surgeries are deemed inaccessible, but elective abortions are considered to be okay, that doesn't make sense to me. There's no consistency, and these decisions just are being made, in my opinion, in a capricious and arbitrary way.
Have you treated patients with COVID-19?
Multiple.
What were the experiences you had there?
So my patients have all had mild symptoms or have tested positive but didn't have symptoms. I've spoken to doctors, a lot of them that have treated COVID-19 patients, and especially early on, the treatment protocols are pretty straightforward. But again, now we've made treatment of COVID-19 a political issue. So hydroxychloroquine, for example, is found to be very safe, effective, cheap, readily available now, yet to prescribe it, like...
He's just lying. Wait, what?
Nothing else that I've ever done. We routinely, as physicians, prescribe medications off-label all the time. That's just what we do. We use our best judgment and clinical experience, and we use medications that maybe it wasn't approved for initially by the FDA, but we found to be effective, so we use it. Common practice. But if I use hydroxychloroquine now and I write a prescription, not uncommonly I'll get a phone call from the pharmacy for me to justify why I'm prescribing this medication. I've never had this happen in my 30-plus years
All
career.
kinds of prescriptions, you never had someone really question and come
Never.
back?
Nope, never. But now every time I write it, I get a response back to justify why. Either the patient is sick and they meet a certain protocol, they're of a particular age, or this, that, and the other. I've never seen that before. And I know that this drug is being used throughout the country successfully and safely, yet it's now a political drug because a few months ago...
Just by the way, I don't know, when was this published? Premiered 3 hours ago. So by the way, at the very least, I know that Brazil canceled their experiments because too many people were having heart problems. I think 7 people died in their trial.
Pride.
As a result of using hydroxychloroquine, but...
I can't remember how long ago now. Every day just seems like, a year, but maybe a month and a half ago, President Trump said on public TV, I remember I was driving to work, listening to the news, one of the press conferences, and I heard him say it. And immediately when I heard him say something about hydroxychloroquine, I said, oh boy, here we go. How long is it going to be until my phone blows up, till I start getting emails from patients? And sure enough, by the time I got to the office, I already received emails inquiring about hydroxychloroquine. But now immediately the press picked it up, and now hydroxychloroquine is a political drug. So if there's a study that shows that it doesn't work, mainstream media, front page news. If there's a study that shows that it has some benefit, it's ignored, or when it's presented, right next to it is a so-called expert to immediately shoot down that study to say that this is not a good drug to be using, despite the fact that it's being used all over the country very successfully and very safely. What people don't realize recognize is hydroxychloroquine has been around since the late 1950s, and it was primarily used to treat malaria. Hundreds of thousands of people take it every day for a variety of autoimmune diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis and systemic lupus, and they use it safely and it's very effective. Yet I'm told that a similar dose for a 7-day course is somehow dangerous and that I shouldn't be using it.
Okay, hold on. Okay, somebody fact check me right now. My understanding is that a dose for like malaria, how much we're talking about dosages that are like 10 times higher. Isn't the prescription of a COVID-19 hydroxychloroquine dose like 200 or 400 milligrams? But for malaria, it's like 20? Can somebody look up like dosage recommend? Is there a way to do this? I had this like on all of my fucking hydroxychloroquine dosage COVID-19. Do your thing, linker. Yeah, where are you guys at link shit all the time?
AYAYA.
The usual adult dose for malaria prophylaxis, 400 milligrams salt orally once a week. This is for prophylaxis too. This is prevention.
Pepe wins.
Just eat salt. Let's see if we can find dosage. Hydroxychloroquine. Malaria versus COVID-19. Can we find anything? This is saying the dose might be the same. My understanding is that the dosages given for the prior treatments, I think we listened to Fauci talk about this, is usually quite a bit smaller. This is in vitro. Chloroquine is a cheap drug that has been used for decades, predominantly for malaria prophylaxis, for which it has had excellent results and good safety and tolerability. Prophylaxis means preventative treatment, basically. Like you take it before so you don't get a disease. Severe adverse events, which mainly involve retinal and psychiatric symptoms, occur only when doses prescribed for malaria are substantially higher than required. Inhibition of severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2 replication seems essential to reduce the risk of... It's highly contagious. Most people who live in areas with COVID-19 are apparently healthy. They can be SARS-CoV-2 negative, and healthy, but with asymmetrical. Dose used might be the same as that usually administered for malaria treatment given. Chloroquine inhibited SARS-CoV replication at a 50% effective concentration of 8 to 8 micromoles per liter. Term prophylaxis. In vitro studies. Fuck. Who can find this? Somebody find me this. Dose. Dose? Oh, I guess we could just look at the actual study itself and see how much they were prescribing. Orally or via nasogastric tube, high dosages of chloroquine, 600 milligrams of chloroquine twice daily for 10 days. 600 milligrams twice daily. So that's 12 grams a day, or 1,200 milligrams a day of chloroquine. Wait, hold on. Usual adult dose for COVID-19. Wait, we were on this page. If it's an 800 milligram salt, that means it's still like 800 milligrams of hydrochloroquine, right? Okay, so what about for like, okay, so for like lupus? 200 to 400 milligrams of salt a day, orally divided in 1 or 2. Okay, so this is 200 to 400 milligrams a day for lupus. And then for COVID-19, it was 800 orally on day 1, 400 on a day after. So the first day is quite a bit higher than the recommended. Okay, it doesn't look like it's actually that much higher. Maybe just some of the studies that have been studying it have been higher as well. Oh god, watching him talk about pharmaceuticals is so triggering. Oh, well, listen, if you want to email me, you can. Otherwise, have fun flunking out of school and disappointing your parents, motherfucker. Because you're watching streams instead of studying. Go do your homework. Sorry, hold on. Wait, hold on 1 second.
Destiny. That's a woman's name.
Good one. When it says at least 50 kg, it means at least 50 kilograms in body weight. I imagine, right? No, you have to eat 100 pounds of salt. Okay.
And I think that's ridiculous. Now, maybe it's not as effective as some of us believe. I get that. But my right as a physician to make, in my judgment, what is best for my patient at the moment, in consultation with proper information to that patient about the risks and benefits, now that's being blocked or at least inhibited. And I don't think that's right.
And hydroxychloroquine works in your experience?
Well, it sounds like he's still able to make the prescription, right? It sounds like he's still able to do that. He just has to justify it to the pharmacy, right? Is that super irregular with lots of drugs? This one has a dosage of 1,200 daily for 3 days? Sure, gotcha.
Not only works to treat mild disease when mixed with a Z-Pak or zithromycin and zinc, but also can be effective in preventing disease. So if you have an older person that's been exposed but hasn't caught the virus, I've seen studies and I have experience in treating that person to prevent them from converting and prevent them from getting ill.
And there are a lot of people who are grabbing onto this idea that...
So there's no, I don't think right now there's any evidence that hydroxychloroquine is effective in treating, or at least when all the literature is considered, in terms of like actually treating COVID-19. And I know for a fact there's not, like, for prophylaxis, that's even harder to prove, no?
I've seen studies and I have experience in treating that person to prevent them from converting and prevent them from getting ill.
And there are a lot of people who are grabbing onto this idea.
And he's saying that he even prescribes it for prophylaxis now too?
If all this shutdown and everything saves just one life, then it'll be worth it.
Yes.
But what's the things that they're missing?
Hold on.
From my understanding, hydroxychloroquine was always considered risky for PPL predisposed for heart problems, so you just need to check for that stuff before prescription. I don't think it's about the dosage.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure the dosage on this drug matters. That the more you take, like, I think in what we just read, like, there were maximum recommended dosages because bad stuff probably happens if you take too much of it. Doses above 400 milligrams a day are not recommended. Like, and then it can, like, destroy your fucking eyes and shit if maintenance dose is exceeded. I'm pretty sure the dosage is pretty important. Also, one of the highest comorbidities for COVID-19 is hypertension, is having heart problems as well, right?
what else is going on behind the scenes that we're not really aware of?
You know, that's a great question, and I resonate with that. If we can only
idea that if all this shutdown and everything saves just one life, then it'll be worth it.
Yes.
But what's the things that then?
Okay, no one is saying that. Nobody is saying that we should shut down the whole country to save one life. That's a pretty stupid straw man of like the opposition argument. Nobody is saying that we're saving one life by shutting down the entire country.
And there are a lot of people who are grabbing onto this idea that if all this shutdown and everything saves just one life, then it'll be worth it.
Yes.
But what's the things that they're missing? What else is going on behind the scenes that we're not really aware of?
You know, that's a great question, and I resonate with that. If we can only save one lives, better safe than sorry. As a matter of fact, I wrote a piece with that title, Better Safe Than Sorry, question mark. It was published in The American Thinker. And the issue is, we're not better safe than sorry because the sorry part is happening right now. So the sorry part is 30 million plus people that are unemployed and now dependent upon government. The sorry part now is the highest suicide rate that we've seen. So we may save one person who doesn't get coronavirus, but the other person who now is depressed and can't feed their family, can't pay the rent, and literally is committing suicide, that's a problem. Delayed surgeries, we don't even know the consequences of that. So we have people that are dying because of delayed surgery, that are being permanently affected, their condition, because their surgeries have been delayed now 1 month longer, and worse. Not to mention one case of child abuse because of the quarantine or domestic violence, one case, that's a case that's going to live with that person the rest of their lives. And so it shouldn't be taken lightly. Well, I don't want to die of coronavirus, so let's just stay quarantined. You can always fix an economic problem, but a death from coronavirus you can never fix. I get that narrative, but at some point we need to realize that the continued lockdown is going to have consequences beyond what we could ever imagine. I mean, this is Great Depression level unemployment, and we turn the switch back on to turn the economy. A lot of these unemployed people are not going back to work because their jobs no longer exist. Small businesses, restaurants, even large businesses. I heard Neiman Marcus is finally shuttering up. They are going out of business because they were on the brink, and this just put them over the edge. And there's other businesses like that. So these are
I went to a Neiman Marcus store one time with Teresa, and I picked a kind of ugly shirt off the rack, and it cost $500. Fuck that store. I don't know if that's supposed to be like designer fashion, and I'm just like have no taste, but holy shit. Okay, fuck that shit.
Thousands and thousands of workers that are not going to have jobs to come back to. So it's not just a temporary unemployment. We're creating a permanent or at least long-lasting unemployment class. Here's my belief. Listen. We have rules in this country. We have a constitution that is supposed to restrain the government and provide maximum liberty. I believe in people more than I believe in the government, and I believe in individual liberty and risk assessment. So I want to give each individual their own opportunity to make a decision as to what's best for their life with information. And if they choose that they want to open up their business with proper precautions and keeping the highest at risk safe, then I think we should allow that to happen, especially if we're in a situation where our healthcare systems are not being overwhelmed. And that's the way it is across the country. We were told we're going to flatten the curve to let our healthcare systems quiet down, and then we'll open things up. It's been, I kind of lost track, 52 days now, 53 days, I can't remember. Enough is enough. Our liberties are being infringed upon. I get the idea of safety, but more important than safety is our individual rights and our individual liberty, and that's being stepped on right now, and that's where I have the problem.
When it comes to flattening the curve, how much of that was because people stayed inside and followed the guidelines compared to maybe what the reality of the virus is?
So the reality is we don't know, of course. So there's some argue, had we not flattened the curve, there'd be millions of people dead. Okay, I get that. Unlikely, but I get that. And we have examples where that actually didn't happen. When you look at Sweden, when you look at South Korea, when you look at Thailand, and other countries where they didn't have the draconian lockdowns like we have here. So it's possible that there'd be more people killed as a result of this.
Okay, South Korea didn't have draconian lockdowns, but I guarantee you that as a libertarian, this guy probably wouldn't have been. Wasn't South Korea like monitoring your fucking, like tracking your cell phone movements and shit in order to find out like where the virus was spreading? like South Korea has been widely praised for its use of technology containing the coronavirus, and that praise has at times generated a sense of mystique, suggesting that Korea has developed sophisticated new tools for tracing and stopping the outbreak. But the truth is far simpler. The tools deployed by Korean authorities are readily available in other technologies, advanced across countries, available in other technologically advanced countries. What sets South Korea apart is the political willingness to use those tools to their full potential in supporting a public health response. Take, for example, Korea's COVID-19 patient 10422. Before being diagnosed, patient 10422 visited the Hanaro supermarket in Yangjae Township on March 23rd from 11:32 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. The patient was accompanied by their spouse, both wearing masks and using their car for transportation on March 27th. Blah, blah, blah. But how exactly is this information compiled? There are essentially three sources: electronic transaction data, mobile phone location logs, and surveillance camera footage. Even before the COVID-19 outbreak, the Korean government collected massive amounts of transaction data for investigating tax fraud. Literally every credit card and bank transaction in Korea is recorded on government databases during the outbreak. This information was repurposed to retroactively track where people went, not just coffee shops and restaurants, but also buses and subways, the latter two mostly paid for by cashless tools. For patient 10422, such transactions would have revealed visits to both the supermarket and burger joint, allowing authorities to quickly quarantine and sterilize both locations. Do you really think that this guy, who would cite South Korea here, would be comfortable with those measures? I seriously fucking doubt it, dude.
where that actually didn't happen. When you look at Sweden, when you look at South Korea, when you look at Thailand and other countries where they didn't have the draconian lockdowns like we have here. So it's possible that there would be more people killed as a result of this virus. But it's also possible that we would have reached herd immunity quicker and we'd see this virus now quieting down like we've seen with other respiratory viruses in the past. And there are some prominent epidemiologists and virologists that have put this message forward. But what happens? They're banned on YouTube. Facebook blocks them. The mainstream narrative, the mainstream media never gives them any airtime except to criticize them. Here's Dr. So-and-so who says the following. Then they have their own expert that says, no way, they're fraud. And by the way, did you know that they got a speeding ticket a few months ago or something of that sort? So there's this narrative that's going forward, and I'm not sure why. I don't want to believe malintent from a motive standpoint, but it's hard not to believe that some on the left in the mainstream media really hope that we can continue this on long enough to unelect our president. And I'm sorry to say that, but I think there's some truth to that. I don't want to believe that politicians and decision makers have that perspective, but I think some of them lean in that direction where they're not entirely disappointed that this mainstream scare is going on to the extent that it hurts President Trump.
He's probably talking about this guy, Raul.
Sweden.
Some doctors are over-attributing COVID-19 as the cause of death with a lot of their patients. Are doctors motivated to get as many COVID-19 patients as possible so they can receive federal funds?
So I don't want to say they're motivated to, but there are incentives in place, and the incentives are based on good motives, meaning that if a hospital system is overwhelmed because we're treating patients with this virus, then we're going to reimburse them at a higher rate to make up for some of the work and difficulty and trauma that they've been experiencing by taking care of these patients. So there are mechanisms in place to reimburse hospitals, but the only way they can track that is by tracking the number of COVID-19 patients and the number of deaths that are associated with COVID-19 patients. So what we do see is happening is patients that die but without a laboratory diagnosis, they're getting coded COVID-19, and there's this natural human tendency to lean in the direction of something that is economically benefiting their healthcare.
I hope that more news stories come out about this. Because I've heard some people say, oh, we're calling everything a COVID-19 death. But then I've heard other people say a lot of people are dying and we don't have the testing tools in place to test every single dead person. There's probably a lot of COVID-19 deaths that aren't being counted as dead at all.
Destiny, how do you feel the Queen anti-air range is getting nerfed from 8 to 7?
Oh, sounds rough.
Nathan Tiny 2.
So I wonder which it is. Because like I said, some people will say oh, everybody's calling it a COVID-19 death. Other people are saying people are dying and we don't know if they have COVID-19 or not because we're not testing dead bodies for it.
MD doesn't even know how herd immunity works. Lol, we're all fucking dead.
Fauci testifies the U.S. coronavirus death toll is likely underreported. I don't know the exact percent that it's higher, but certainly it's higher. The nation's leading expert on infectious diseases told the Senate Health Committee. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's leading expert on infectious diseases, told the Senate Health Committee on Tuesday that the true coronavirus death toll is likely higher than what has been reported so far and cautioned Americans that going back to normal life too soon could cause a major spike in cases. Have you seen that some conservatives, I've seen Tucker Carlson, are starting to turn on Fauci? There was a Twitter thing about this, so I don't have to watch fucking ads.
I think all of the nation was made, I believe, for the time being, should be a very regular part of how we prevent this.
Does anybody have a...
Is this the guy into whom you want to vest all of your trust? Is this the guy you want to chart the future of the country? Maybe not. This is a very serious matter, the decisions we're making right now. Tony Fauci has not been elected to anything. He's had the same job for nearly 40 years. That means the majority of American voters never even indirectly picked him for the role he has now. This is not the result of any kind of democratic process at work at all. Yet in the last 4 months, Fauci has become one of the most powerful people in the world. And some, particularly in our media and in our democratic establishment, are clamoring to give Dr. Fauci even more power. Why? Some people seem to think he should be dictator for the duration.
Wait, what? Who are some people? Who's arguing this? Or CNN? Is Anderson Cooper out here being like, Dictator Fauci, please dominate me, daddy? Who is saying this?
Of this crisis. That's insanity. Fauci, like every other human being, is flawed. He says things that are wise. He says things that are profoundly silly.
I hope Tucker Carlson's stupid fucking hairdo comes to life and strangles him.
When it comes to making long-term health recommendations, this guy, Fauci, may be even more off base than your average epidemiologist. Plenty of doctors, by the way, think it's time for most, even all of the country, to cautiously reopen. And they have a voice in this, too. They deserve one. But in the end, no appointed doctor should make the call on what our federal policy is. We elect leaders for that because we're supposed to be in charge of the country because it's a democracy.
Okay, I'm curious where the power comes from. I don't think Fauci has that power, does he? Can't the head of... Is Fauci the head of the... Is it the National Institute of Health? Fauci job. Wait, hold on. What is his actual... The National NIAD, the National Institute of I don't know. What is the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases? Okay. I could be wrong, but I don't think he has the power in and of himself to do anything, right? Don't these orders have to come from like either Trump or from like the State Department or something? I don't know. Like, what does... Like, Fauci himself isn't giving these orders, right? Don't these have to go through the White House? Like, I'm pretty sure he's just an advisor, or he can make recommendations, right? He writes the policy, and then politicians can choose to enforce it or not. Yeah, like, the orders have to come from some other department. Like, I'm pretty sure Trump can just replace him, can't he? Can he not do that? Is it within the purview of the president to replace him? But, okay.
Care system. When I code on our electronic medical record systems, there are coding for COVID-19, and the organizations that provide these codings, let us know what the cost and benefit is for making these codes. So I don't want to say there's dishonest doctors out there that are doing this purposely. I'm sure there's some of that, but there's this natural tendency to lean in the direction and code in a way that will ensure higher reimbursements for a healthcare system that's overwhelmed.
So like every COVID death a person had COVID, not every COVID death is from COVID.
Wait, is it overwhelmed or is it not overwhelmed? I thought we just made all these arguments that it wasn't overwhelmed. Hold on. Sorry, what?
And the organizations that provide these codings, let us know what the cost and benefit is for making these codes. So I don't want to say there's dishonest doctors out there that are doing this purposely. I'm sure there's some of that, but there's this natural tendency to lean in the direction and code in a way that will ensure higher reimbursements for a healthcare system that's overwhelmed.
So like every COVID death a person had COVID, not every COVID death is from COVID.
Correct, that's right.
So going forward with all of this, what would your plan of action be if you were in charge?
I'm still waiting for the phone call from Governor Newsom. Hasn't come yet. But if I were in charge, I'd look individually at the local healthcare systems. I would put as much decision-making power into the hands of the local politicians, City of Newport Beach, the City of Huntington Beach, et cetera, and let them make decisions for their locality. I know here in Orange County, a lot of the cities are coming together to lobby Governor Newsom to allow Orange County to open up. The reason why they're not doing this themselves and just saying, we don't care what the governor says, is the governor has literally threatened Orange County with cutting off of state funds if they go against his recommendation. So the supervisors in the cities have been very hesitant to do anything because they don't want their funds cut off, but they're organizing to try to lobby and negotiate with the governor. So if it were up to me, I would allow local municipalities to make their own decisions based on the capacity in their local healthcare systems. As much local governance as possible, as much individual liberty and responsibility as possible as well.
Masks, effective, not effective?
Not as effective as we're led to believe. So first of all, as I walk around and I see people with these cloth masks on, or even regular masks on, if you're not used to wearing a mask, there's a tendency to touch it, to adjust it, to scratch your nose, they're uncomfortable, and immediately as soon as you start doing that, you remove any protective benefit from that mask. I've had asked to me, well, what if I'm sick? Shouldn't I have a mask on? Because won't that prevent the droplet spread of me to infect somebody else? Theoretically, yes, but the problem with that is there's very little evidence that there's this crop dusting occurrence where I'm walking around, I have no symptoms, yet I'm spraying virus everybody for other people to get infected. As a matter of fact, there were some studies done in New York that showed the vast majority, I think it was about 67 to 70% of people that catch this virus do so indoors in their own home, not out in public. And so wearing a mask, not only is it uncomfortable, I read an article I posted it the other day about a guy wearing an N95 mask and crashed his car because it was so uncomfortable and distracting. And I see people out there jogging with a mask on. That makes no sense at all. Riding your bike with a mask on, I don't get it. That doesn't make sense. And the worst is somebody driving solo in their car with a pair of gloves on and a mask. We've entered into crazy town.
Dr. Barker, thank you for talking to us. Really appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, all the good stuff.
Some truth there. 70,000 missing deaths, tracking the true toll of the coronavirus outbreak. Oh, I've seen stuff like this around here. I don't know how much of this is true or not. I imagine we'll probably get a big like retrospective, and then we'll actually figure out like how many people have died. But shit, did I say 90,000 at the end of May? I pussied out. I went full mic from PA. Originally I said 100,000, but then I backed off to 90,000. I should have stuck with 100,000. Isn't that indoor thing bullshit because it's not about your home, but like gyms, malls, place of work, stuff that... Yeah, I think it's the difference between indoor environments versus outdoor, not just being in your house, yeah. I am no longer a materialist, okay? Or physicalist. I have